Alright guys, it's the first week of February and it's about that time to get your seeds going. And this is my favorite time of the year. Even though I'm not going to be here all summer long, I'm still going to be growing stuff. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we're in the greenhouse and what I'm doing right now is trying to get an idea of what I'm going to be growing, how much I'm going to be growing, and when I'm going to be transplanting stuff depending on what it is. So when it comes to the trays, when it comes to tomatoes, 50s is pretty much what I like to use. When it comes to peppers, I do like the 98s, these little plugs, and the reason why I like that is because the peppers, they really like to grow extremely fast. And the nice thing about starting them in here is that they require fertilizer once they get their roots pretty much established. So once they're done here, I put them in the 50s and then mix the soil, the potting mix with some fertilizer, and then that will jumpstart the pepper to the next stage. And then from there, I can decide whether I want to go to the 2.5-inch pots or the 4-inch pots. And from there, depending on where I go in late in the summer, I might have to transfer over to a 1-gallon pot or maybe a 2-gallon pot as far as pepper goes. Peppers, you know, they can one pepper plant, that is, can pretty much do pretty well in a I would say a 1 gallon, 2 gallon probably is the most. But the one thing I will tell you, one thing we normally do with our 50s, we try to reuse it. You can probably get a couple of years out of it, but we do go through the end of the season and separate all the ones that are cracked, all the ones that are suspect that won't make it to the next season. And what I mean by that is this is one, and none of these have been washed out. We rinse them out before we start to use them again, but they start getting cracks like this. They just get really brittle after a while. They are in the sun quite a bit, and you want to be careful with that, because once that happens and you get this thing filled up with soil and you're watering it, I've seen them where they will crack right here, and if you're not careful, you're carrying around this thing, it will snap and you can lose a whole 50 tray, paint right on the floor all over the place. Luckily, I've never experienced that, but I can already assume that would happen, because I almost had that happen one time, but I was able to catch it before it fell. The other thing is, when you're putting these things away, and I stacked a pile up that was suspect, but some of them were still good, some of them weren't, but I forgot about it. I put it too close to the plastic over here in the greenhouse. And when you do that, okay, they will melt. So this is a great example of what will happen when these
are left outside.
Are left out in the sun for too long. They will melt right. I mean, look at that. That's hilarious just to look at that. So just a little FYI, guys. So, all right. So now that I have some idea of what I'm going to be doing, transferring tomato pots, they're going to be a different story. I could probably end up going with somewhere around a 3-gallon, I think, to a 5-gallon. That might be a little bit more. Probably a 3-gallon for tomato plants. But right now, I just want to kind of get an idea of what kind of varieties I'm going to be growing that are going to be early producing. So let's get into that. What we do is we always categorize our seeds from the oldest to the newest. So the oldest is going to be in the back, and those are the seeds that we normally try to go through first, especially things like tomatoes and peppers. Those things will last for years. And I've grown stuff like, I don't know, 10 years at least. And then things like lettuce, onions, they're not going to last, over a year or two. Then they start getting suspect in terms of their germination. But tomatoes and peppers are pretty good about germinating. This year, I will plan on using some peppers that I harvested the seeds myself, such as some of these red roasters and some of the lunch boxes. So I'm trying to figure out which peppers I can produce or start trying to grow as early as I can, because the red bells, they take a long time to grow. The lunch boxes, they were sooner. The red ones were definitely later. The orange and the yellows took a while. The Euros were wonderful, but that's an F1, so I'm trying not to do an F1 this year. And as far as tomatoes go, my early varieties last year, the first one to produce was a German Johnson, and then I think we had pink rose, no, rose,
Prudent. Purple.
and prudent purples, and the prudent purples way outperformed all of them. So these are some of the new varieties I want to try. I have grown Moscovich before. I'm a little bit familiar with that one. I haven't grown the Oregon Spring, so I'm really curious about that one. 60 days. The Moscovich is 60 days, and this chocolate pear is 65 days. And the reason why I want to grow a chocolate pear, I love the chocolate tomato varieties. They just have a way richer flavor. Unfortunately, the stink bugs like them too. They usually go for the like the black crimsons, the Cherokee purples, and that's another variety I want to grow. Is a Cherokee purple, and these are old seeds. I mean, these go. I end up finding these, like, I must have misplaced them or something. Through 2012. I'm going to grow them anyway because I got a feeling they'll probably still produce. We're at 2019 now, so that's 7 years. So I'm going to roll the dice and see what happens. If you do something like this, usually I'll put at least 2 in each plug. Depending on how many I have. Looks like I have a decent amount. I want to grow at least, I don't know, 20 of them just for ourselves. And I should have enough. Well, I have to count these out to see how many I can get out of them. But that's the deal with that. So anything else that's going to take a much longer in the season to grow, like my later variety tomatoes, I'm still on the fence with in terms of what are we going to be doing, because we might be getting a contract on the farm within the next couple of weeks, but we don't know for sure. So I'm going to hold off on that and make a decision later. That's my prep time. That's what I'm doing now. Just trying to get everything set up, trying to get an idea of what I want to grow, when I want to start, which is now. Honestly, a couple of days is when I really wanted to start, but it's just been kind of crazy mode.
But this is only for high tunnels.
Yeah, and this is just for the high tunnels, guys. So this is really early for planting outside. You really don't want to plant for outside. I mean, and it depends on your region. We're in 7B?
P?
Yeah. So yeah, it really just depends on your zone. So we probably won't be starting, if we were to plant outside, probably won't be starting that till March. And something like that. See how it goes and just try to see what happens with the farm and try to keep my head straight, you know? Just all this craziness going on. One of the things I like to do is I like to connect with nature, guys. So let me show you what I like to do. So let's step outside real quick. Alright guys, welcome to my little escape. This is one of the places I like to come to just to relax, decompress, get reconnected with nature, and some of those things you just have to do, for me especially. You know, with all the stuff that's going on around the world, I mean, I think we're really starting to come to an awakening now with humanity starting to see what's really been going on behind the scenes in terms of our political, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, all these truths are going to start coming out more and more now. So it's important that you keep yourself in a positive place as much as you can, because a lot of these things are really going to upset people. But it has to be brought out. there's just no turning around. We have to push through this part of our lives and move to a place where we are all one humanity. All this separation stuff has just gotten extra now, and I think they're really starting to kick it up to full gear to try to push out their agendas. But I'm not going to name names. You guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're awakened, you should probably know. But I want to definitely tell you guys that if you're getting really depressed at what's happening, okay, it's important to not let it pull you down, okay? I understand it's really bad, some of the real bad stuff, especially when you're talking about some of the things that are happening with children. And I personally understand that situation. And when you get sucked into a negative place, it just keeps you at a low vibration, and that's not what we want to do. Okay, so you want to try to keep yourself in check. Don't get yourself too caught up in the drama. When you start feeling yourself getting really emotional and upset and depressed, and if you have to, let it out. If you start to get to the point where you really, when you start really realizing how crazy things are, it's sad, it's depressing. And for all the guys out there, like, who don't want to see if this stuff has really been happening, it's real, and it's hard to confront head on. And I get it. I get people just want, it's like, oh, it's not happening, it's not this, it's not that. And you got to be careful with that, because that's where things just keep on happening. And so I totally get, it's really bad out there, and I understand it, but we're also moving in a really positive place. All these things are starting to come out now. We're finally starting to move into a direction where all this stuff can get cleaned up. So until we get to that point, keep yourself in check. Don't let yourself get depressed. Don't let yourself get, sucked into the negative energies, because that's what they want to do. Okay, they want to keep everybody separated. They want to keep everybody divided and arguing against each other, and that's the plan. That's always been the plan. So, with that said, if you get to a point where it just gets so depressing, let it out. Let it out. Let that emotion out. Cry it out. And before you guys start calling me a wuss, try to understand that men in general, we're trained not to show emotion. We're trained not to cry. As a childhood, I went through that whole psychic brainwashing, and when I confronted my father about it years later, he was taught the same thing. And I don't want to go into all that kind of stuff, but it's important that we understand. It's like, our emotions are actually what makes us human. So there's nothing wrong with letting that out. And when you do that, breathe it in, breathe it into your heart, and let that heart feel your compassion and your love for humanity. Okay, because if you feel that, let it out, because that's really important. That is really powerful. But go to a place, once you let it out, breathe it in through your stomach, right? Feel it in your heart. It will relax you. It will bring you to a nice, quiet place, a loving place, and all that emotion from all that what's going on, you filter it out and push it out with love. Extremely powerful. It's important that we connect with your heart, right? Remind yourself that you're human. Connect with nature. Don't let the drama get to you, man. It's going to get extra. It's going to get extra. All right, guys, so I'm going to leave it there. Keep on doing your thing. Keep on growing. Connect with nature. Any chance you can. Trust me. Do a couple times a day if you have to, okay? Or just sit and breathe in a quiet place. Close your eyes. Breathe it in. Breathe it out. Okay? Let it go. Push that negative energy down. Filter it down into the earth, okay? And bring that light from the top, right? Bring it into your heart, because our heart is what's going to save this planet. That's real talk, guys. All right, Until the next time, I'll see you. So peace, love.